Cyclospora, and C. Cryptosporidium. So again, P. Plasmodium, D. Toxoplasma, B. Babesia, C. Cyclospora, and C. Cryptosporidium. Okay? So okay na, apicomplexans with complex locomotory apparatus. So marami siyang organelles for locomotion. Next is Ciliophora. So for phylum Ciliophora, syempre cilio, ciliates. Okay? They use cilia for their locomotion. So the only ciliate that is pathogenic to man is Balantidium coli or B. coli. Okay? So next, Microspora. So for Microspora, the mnemonic is ME or EME. ME stands for enterocytozoon, M for microsporidium, and E for encephalitozoon. So enterocytozoon, microsporidium, encephalitozoon. Okay? Then, according to the CDC, yung ME, yung EME, they are classified as fungi. So, hindi sila classified under protozoans. Okay? So, what do you call the unit that performs the vital function? So, for the unit that performs the vital function, it is called the protoplasm. Okay, so performs vital function, protoplasm. Okay, so there is also the regulation and maintenance of osmotic pressure. Kasi diba, when you are amoeba or protozoans, you will be subjected to large amounts of osmotic pressure. So to regulate the amount of osmotic pressure, they have contracting vacuoles. Okay, contracting vacuoles. So what part of the protozoa does the metabolic and vital functions of the cell? So pag metabolic and vital functions of the cell, organelles. Okay, metabolic and vital functions of the cell, organelles. But for genetic material transfer, nucleus. Okay, for vital functions, organelle or metabolic functions, organelles. But for genetic material transfer, nucleus. Okay, so now let us go to the first class of protozoans that we will discuss. So we will discuss the amoebae. So the amoebae are under class Rhizopoda. Okay? Amoebae are under class Rhizopoda. So ano nga yung subphylum of amoebae? Subphylum Sarcopina. So they use pseudopods for their locomotion. Okay? So there are certain general rules for the amoebae. So first, let's start. All of them have their cystic stage except Entamoeba gingivalis. Okay, so all of them have their cystic stage except Entamoeba gingivalis. So Entamoeba gingivalis only has its trophozoite stage. So both diagnostic and infective stage of Entamoeba gingivalis is the trophozoite kasi wala siyang cyst. Okay? So all of them inhabit the large intestine except, so same, Entamoeba gingivalis. Kasi diba, gingiva, the Entamoeba gingivalis resides in the oral mucosa. So hindi siya sa large intestine. So yung ibang amoebae, which are the Entamoeba coli, Entamoeba histolytica, they inhabit the large intestine. Okay? So next, they are all commensals except Entamoeba histolytica. So all of them do not cause diseases or only causes as very self-limiting diseases except Entamoeba histolytica. That's why the infection of Entamoeba histolytica is called amoebiasis. Okay? Kasi when you say amoebiasis, it does not mean all of the infection of all of the amoebae. It only means infection of Entamoeba histolytica. Kasi diba, Entamoeba histolytica is the only pathogenic amoeba. Okay? So now let us go to the difference between the amoebae. So let us differentiate Entamoeba with Endolimax and Iodamoeba. So for Entamoeba, these are the true amoeba. Okay? But Entamoeba, true amoeba. And they have peripheral chromatin. So they have peripheral chromatin. And they also have chromatoidal bars. Okay? They also have chromatoidal bars. So with. Pero pag Endolimax and Iodamoeba, these are the other amoebae. Okay? Other amoebae. So they do not have peripheral chromatin and they do not have chromatoidal bars. Okay? So true amoeba, Entamoeba, other amoeba, Endolimax and Iodamoeba. Okay, so we are done with the differences between the amoebae. So let us go first to the pathogenic amoeba species or Entamoeba species. So Entamoeba histolytica. Okay. So for Entamoeba histolytica, it is the most invasive of the parasites. So sa lahat ng parasites, Entamoeba histolytica is the most invasive. Therefore, it can lead to a lot of clinical manifestations to different organ systems. Kasi invasive siya. So it can go to the liver, to the lungs. So many different organs can be invaded by Entamoeba histolytica. Okay, so sa lahat ng parasites, all parasites talaga, siya ang most invasive. Okay? So next, humans are the only host. So wala siyang other species or other animals as its host. Humans lang talaga. So E. histolytica is first described in 1875 in a young Russian peasant in the port of Archangels. Hindi ko alam paano pag-pronounce. Pero it is first described in 1875 in a young Russian peasant. Okay? So Entamoeba histolytica troughs are seen with saline or wet prep. Okay? Wet preparation. So troughs are seen with wet preparation. While cysts are seen with iodine. Okay? So you should take note of that. But they are best seen in permanent stain smears. So yung mga trichrome stain smears, they are the best for Entamoeba histolytica. So let's go to the two stages of Entamoeba histolytica. So diba, the two stages are cyst and trophozoid. Okay? So ang cyst, it is the infective stage of Entamoeba histolytica. And it is quadrinucleate. So it means it has 4 nuclei. So the cyst of Entamoeba histolytica has 4 nuclei. So it can be differentiated sa ibang mga parasites or Entamoeba species later. Okay? So it also has a rod or cigar-shaped chromatoidal bar. Okay? Rod or cigar-shaped chromatoidal bars. So circular ang kanyang chromatoidal bars. And take note that the cyst contains the chromatoidal bars. So walang chromatoidal bars ang trophozoid, only the cyst. Okay? So next, trophozoid, it is invasive it is the invasive stage. So siya yung pumupunta sa different organs to produce the clinical manifestations. And then it is also motile. So the motility of trophozoite of Entamoeba histolytica is characterized as progressive and directional. So progressive and directional. So it possesses pseudopodia, which are finger-shaped. Okay, finger-shaped pseudopodia. And also characteristic of the trophozoite of Entamoeba histolytica is hematophagous or ingestion of RBCs. So if sa cyst, it has the rod or cigar-shaped chromatoidal bars, the trophozoites have ingested RBCs, which is called as hematophagous. Kasi diba, phagus, eating, ingestion, hemato, blood, RBCs. Okay? So again, infective stage, cyst, invasive stage, trophozoite. Okay? So there are modes of transmission for Entamoeba histolytica. So first is cysts from fecally contained material. Okay? So when material is contaminated by feces with the cysts of Entamoeba histolytica and you happen to ingest that material, you will be infected with Entamoeba histolytica. And also venereal transmission. Okay? Entamoeba histolytica can also be transmitted through venereal transmission and contaminated enema equipment. Okay? So we are done with that part. Let's go to the morphologic differences between the amoebae. So, for the morphologic differences, Entamoeba histolytica does not have any morphological difference with Entamoeba dispar and Entamoeba moszkowski. Okay, so E. histolytica, E. dispar, and E. moszkowski, they have no morphologic differences. That's why kapag nagre-report ang lab ng E. histolytica or when you see E. histolytica on the stool sample, you should put /E. dispar and /E. moszkowski because it may be very dangerous for the patient kasi diba, what if E. dispar ang kanyang infection and it has no morphological difference with E. histolytica, and then you put the diagnosis or the parasite scene as E. histolytica, so the doctor may tell or may give the metronidazole to the patient, diba? Pero commensal lang yung E. dispar. So why would you bother or why would you give the patient metronidazole na imbes na it will be beneficial for him or her, it would be detrimental. Okay? So that's why you should put /E. dispar and E. moszkowski when you report E. histolytica. So these can only be differentiated by polymerase chain reaction, PCR, monoclonal antibody typing, or isoenzyme analysis. Again, PCR, monoclonal antibody typing, or isoenzyme analysis. Okay, so now let's go to the clinical manifestations of Entamoeba histolytica. So first is for the intestinal clinical manifestations, it may present as amoebic colitis, non-dysenteric colitis, which has no diarrhea. So either amoebic colitis or non-dysenteric colitis, which has no diarrhea. And since Entamoeba histolytica is the most invasive of the parasites, it can cause extraintestinal clinical manifestations. So, for example, the liver. So it may cause acute non-suppurative liver disease. Acute non-suppurative liver disease. Okay? For the lungs, Entamoeba histolytica will cause lung atelectasis or the collapse of the alveoli. Okay, lung atelectasis or collapse of the alveoli. Okay, so for the ulcers of Entamoeba histolytica, it has the characteristic flask-shaped ulcer. Again, flask-shaped ulcer. Okay, so it can also cause buffalo skin or yak hair ulcer. Again, buffalo skin or yak hair ulcers. Okay? So for the diagnosis of Entamoeba histolytica, there is a minimum of 3 stool specimens. Okay? 3 stool specimens. So for the trophozoite motility, for you to see the trophozoite motility, you will use a direct fecal smear. Okay? Direct fecal smear. So you can use these things: Wenzel's iodine, methylene blue, glucose iodine, and D-Antony stain. But the best for trophozoites are or is the Wenzel's iodine stain. Okay, so DFS for trophozoite motility and Wenzel's iodine, best for trophozoite. So trophozoite with RBCs ingestion or ingested RBCs is diagnostic for amoebiasis. Again, trophozoite with RBCs, diagnostic for amoebiasis. So you can also use concentration techniques for low intensity infections, and the best culture medium used for Entamoeba histolytica is the Lox egg serum. Okay, Lox egg serum. So you can also use Powex and Drobol halves, Schaefer Riden Fry, Balamuth, Rice Egg Saline, and Robinson's and Inoki. So pwede nyo nang hindi isulat yun, but the best is Logs Egg Serum. Okay, so what is the infective stage of Entamoeba histolytica? So the infective stage is the quadrinucleated cyst. So put it there, infective stage, quadrinucleated cyst, and diagnostic stage is immature cyst or trophozoite. So immature cyst or trophozoite. And also add in the clinical manifestations, amoeboma or a tumor in the liver. Amoeboma due to chronic Entamoeba histolytica infection. Okay, so now let's go to the treatment for Entamoeba histolytica. So the treatment of choice for invasive amoebiasis, so invasive, going to the other parts of your body, metronidazole. Okay, metronidazole. While for the asymptomatic cyst passers, diloxanide furoate. Okay, diloxanide furoate. But you can also use nitroimidazole. Pero yan yung i-memorize nyo. Treatment of choice for invasive amoebiasis, metronidazole. For asymptomatic cyst passers, diloxanide furoate. Okay? So now let us go to the differences between bacillary and amoebic dysentery. So bacillary dysentery, bacillus, it is caused by bacillary bacteria. Okay, bacterial dysentery yung bacillary, while amoebic dysentery is caused by the parasites or amoeba. Okay. So for bacillary dysentery, it has an acute onset. So mabilisan siya, acute onset. And also vomiting is common. And it forms odorless stool. But odorless stool, bacillary dysentery. And without Charcot-Leyden crystals. Kasi diba, Charcot-Leyden crystals are remains of eosinophils. And eosinophils attack parasites. Di ba? Neutrophils ang nag-a-attack sa bacillus or mga bacteria. So, it doesn't have Charcot-Maiden crystals. But for amoebic dysentery, it has a gradual onset, so hindi siya mabilisan. And no vomiting, so no vomiting ang amoebic dysentery. And it forms a fishy odor stool. Yan, fishy odor stool, amoebic dysentery. Pero odorless stool, bacillary dysentery. Then with Charcot-Maiden crystals ang amoebic dysentery kasi diba, eosinophils. Okay, so we are done with Entamoeba histolytica. Now let's go to Entamoeba coli. So Entamoeba coli is a commensal, di ba? So non-pathogenic that resembles E. histolytica. So that's why they are commonly differentiated with one another. So the trophozoite of Entamoeba coli does not ingest RBCs and its movement is sluggish. Kasi diba, trophozoite of E. histolytica with hematophagous ingests RBCs and with progressive and directional movement. Okay, so difference nila ng trophozoite, sluggish and does not ingest RBCs. The next, the cyst of Entamoeba coli is 10 to 35 micrometers in size, so larger, and its nuclei has 8 nuclei. So diba sa Entamoeba histolytica, quadrinucleated 4 nuclei. For Entamoeba coli, 8 nuclei, octanucleated. Okay, so now let's go to the differences between E. histolytica and E. coli. So let's start with the cyst. So let's differentiate it using the cyst and the trophozoite. So for the cyst, the number of nuclei. So for E. histolytica, quadrinucleated, 4 nuclei. For E. coli, octanucleated, 8 nuclei for the cyst. So for the mature cyst, it has, for E. histolytica, it has less than 4 nuclei. But for the E. coli, greater than 4 nuclei. So again, E. coli, 8 octanucleated, histolytica, quadrinucleated or 4 nuclei. So now, chromatoidal bars. Diba chromatoidal bars are found in the cyst stage, not in the troph stage. Okay, so the chromatoidal bars of E. histolytica are sausage-shaped, rounded ends, and cigar-shaped. Again, sausage-shaped, rounded ends with cigar-shape or cigar-shape. So medyo circle-circle siya, smooth siya. Meanwhile, for E. coli, which broomstick? Which broomstick? Splintered or needle-like ends. Okay, so rough siya sa E. coli. Okay, so next, trophozoite. So for the trophozoite, for the movement of the trophozoite, diba, sinabi ko na kanina, E. histolytica, progressive, unidirectional. For E. coli, sluggish, non-progressive. So kung titingnan nyo, parang E. histolytica yung perfect na entamoeba, diba? So siya yung pabida na entamoeba. Next is shape of pseudopodia. For E. histolytica, finger-like. But for E. coli, blunt ends. Okay? E. histolytica, finger-like. E. coli, blunt ends. The next is the nucleus or caryosome. So for E. histolytica, the nucleus is central. So central nucleus. But for E. coli, eccentric nucleus. So, di ba, pabida na naman yung E. histolytica. Siya yung central E. histolytica. Then, eccentric, E. coli. The next is cytoplasm. So, the cytoplasm of E. histolytica is clear. Okay? Clear cytoplasm. So, siya yung may skincare. Okay? Then, E. coli, dirty cytoplasm. Okay, so now you know the differences between E. histolytica and E. coli. So now let's go to Entamoeba hartmanni. So Entamoeba hartmanni is also called as small race E. histolytica. So wala silang difference ng E. histolytica. Their only difference is their size. Kasi E. hartmanni is smaller. Kaya nga, small race E. histolytica. So their only clear-cut distinction is their size. So the trophozoites measures 12 micrometers and the cyst measures 10 micrometers. So they may ingest bacteria but not RBCs. Okay, hartmanni, small race, Entamoeba histolytica. Next is Entamoeba poleki. So these Entamoeba species were found in the intestines of pigs and monkeys. Again, pigs and monkeys. So galing siya sa animals, so zoonotic infection. It has sluggish motility of trophozoites. So same sila ng E. coli, di ba? Sluggish motility of trophozoites. So its cyst has a single nucleus. Again, single nucleus, di ba? Cyst ng E. histolytica, 4 nuclei. Ng E. coli, 8 nuclei. But for Entamoeba poleki, 1 nucleus. Okay, very characteristic. The next is it has a mass inclusion. Mass inclusion. Okay, Entamoeba poleki with mass inclusion. Okay, so we are done with Entamoeba poleki. Now let us go to Entamoeba gingivalis. So Entamoeba gingivalis, very special din siya na Entamoeba because it is called the kissing amoeba because it is associated with gum infections, gingivitis, gingivalis, gum infections. So it is found in the pyorrheal pockets between the teeth and gums and in the tonsillar crypts. So in between the teeth and gums and the tonsillar crypts. Okay? So the trophozoid, for the trophozoid of Entamoeba gingivalis, it has a small and central caryosome. Small and central caryosome. And its pseudopodia is similar to E. histolytica, but it does not show progressive motility. So, ang progressive motility, E. histolytica lang talaga. Okay? And its cytoplasm may contain ingested bacteria and RBCs, but most frequently contain leukocytes. Okay? So, pwede siya may bacteria and RBCs, but most frequently WBCs or leukocytes. So it has no cystic stage, di ba? Kasi both ang kanyang infective and diagnostic stage is the trophozoid. Okay, so now Endolimax neina. So Endolimax neina is the smallest amoeba species. So it has the same size as the red blood cell. So imagine it is the smallest amoeba species, di ba? RBC size is 7 to 8 micrometers. Then it has a cross-eyed cyst. Okay, characteristic cross-eyed cyst. So we are done with the Endolimax neina.